Texas Senator Ted Cruz joining on the line. Sir, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Bernie, good morning. It's great to be with you.
Thank you very much, sir. We have so many questions we want to jump into this morning. We're trying to get them in these 7 minutes. Brandon, what was the first topic for you?
So first topic, the Louisiana caucus numbers were released by the state GOP, and on the candidate ballots, your name, Ted Cruz, coming in at number one, 1,523 to Donald Trump's 1,010. And so I want to ask you, as voters do go to the polls tomorrow for the primary, what about you do you believe is resonating with Louisiana voters?
Well, listen, Louisiana and Texas, we share values in common. I think people in both Louisiana and Texas, we're fed up with Washington. We're fed up with politicians who are lying to us. We're fed up with elected leaders who aren't doing what they say. And we want to see jobs and economic growth come back. The 7 years of the Obama-Clinton economic stagnation is enough. If I'm elected president, we're going to repeal every word of Obamacare. We're going to pass a simple flat tax and abolish the IRS. We're going to stop amnesty and secure the borders. And we're going to pull back the EPA regulators and the Washington regulators that are killing small businesses. All of those together are going to cause small businesses to explode, the economy to take off. It's going to bring back the oil and gas industry, which unites Louisiana and Texas powerfully. And it's going to raise wages for millions of Americans. And I'm so grateful that so many men and women in Louisiana are rallying behind our campaign, saying enough is enough. We need a president who will do what he says, who's not selling us a bill of goods, but we can trust to follow through and fight for the working men and women of this country.
Senator, exactly that, what you just mentioned. You know, we've lost about 12,000 jobs in the last year and a half in the oil and gas industry, and that was one of the big questions. I know you just mentioned that, but I think, you know, when we get a new administration in, people want to know exactly what you might be able to do to get our jobs back to help us.
Well, it is powerfully important. And let me say, you know, I grew up in the oil and gas industry. My parents owned a small business, a seismic data processing business in the oil and gas industry. And so I saw the ups and downs of being in the industry. There were times that were good, but I also saw in the 80s when my parents went bankrupt. I understand what it's like when it busts, and it can be really hard. And, you know, I've got a long history with the great state of Louisiana. My parents actually met in New Orleans. And fell in love there, and my mom went to high school in Baton Rouge at St. Joseph Academy. And so as a neighbor, I've got a long history with your wonderful state, and we understand, look, people want to work, they want the dignity of providing for their kids, they want to be able to enjoy the ability to use their natural talents without the government getting in the way, without the government strangling small businesses. If you want the economy to take off, small businesses are the heart of the economy. 2/3 of all new jobs come from small businesses. Under Barack Obama, small businesses have been hit with a battering ram every day. That will change. And my number one priority as president is going to be jobs and economic growth. And you do that by getting Washington the heck out of the way, by pulling back the regulators that are strangling job creation. And I'll tell you, when it comes to oil and gas, we are going to open up new federal lands, open up new federal waters, so that we can develop the incredible resources we have, and we're going to stop the federal government from being a barrier to developing those resources. Instead, America will be energy independent, and that is going to produce millions of high-paying jobs for Americans in the process.
U.S. Senator and GOP presidential candidate Ted Cruz is joining us now. Kurt, one of our listeners, they're listening and they want to get some questions in. So let's go ahead and get Kurt's question in, talking about what you mentioned earlier about abolishing the IRS. Now, address his concerns, please. He says, abolishing the IRS is not within the power of the presidency. He says, how do you plan to accomplish that?
Well, he is exactly right. That is not something that can be done through executive action. You know, there are three avenues of presidential power. The first is executive power. That has been what Obama has abused over and over again. Now, the one silver lining of that is everything done with executive power can be undone with executive power. So on the first day in office, I have pledged to rescind every single illegal and unconstitutional executive action taken by President Obama, including his illegal executive amnesty. I've also pledged on the first day in office to instruct the U.S. Department of Justice to open an investigation into Planned Parenthood and to prosecute any and all criminal violations. And I intend to instruct every federal agency that the persecution of religious liberty ends today. All of those can be done on day one. The second area of presidential power to change the direction of this country is foreign policy. And foreign policy likewise can change overnight. That's why I pledged on day one to rip to shreds this catastrophic Iranian nuclear deal and to begin the process of moving the American embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. Both of those can be done on day one. But the third avenue, and this goes to your listener's question, is legislation. Legislation is harder. It takes time. Moving Congress is not easy. The two big legislative initiatives that I'm campaigning on are repealing Obamacare and passing a simple flat tax and abolishing the IRS. That's got to be legislation through Congress. If you want to look at the details of my proposal, my flat tax, go to our website. It's tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org. I've got all the details there. You can look at them directly. But the only way to get that done, neither of those are easy. Right now, Congress wouldn't do either one of those. The only way to get that done is I intend to make 2016 a referendum on repealing Obamacare and abolishing the IRS. If we come out in November 2016 with a mandate from the people, that's how you change the incentives in Washington. That's how you break the Washington cartel, and that's exactly what we're going to do this year.
We know that time is running out with you, Senator, but we want to get one more question in. Critics have accused you of having an inability to compromise. What I would like for you to address is when you believe compromise is needed and when you believe it's not needed.
Brandon, that's a great question. My view on compromise is the same as Ronald Reagan's. Reagan said, what do you do if they offer you half a loaf? Answer, you take it, and then you come back for more. I am perfectly happy to compromise with anybody, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Libertarians. I've joked, heck, I'll compromise with Martians if they're shrinking the size and power of the federal government, if they are reducing the debt, if they are expanding jobs and economic growth, if they are protecting the rights of the people. What happens in Washington is far too many people compromise going backwards. That's the Washington deal makers, and that, by the way, is what Donald Trump is promising, is more Washington deal making with Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. I'm not interested in cutting a deal that benefits the special interest, benefits the giant corporations, and sticks it to the working men and women. That's the typical Washington compromise. That I will not do. Every day in the Senate, I have fought for the working men and women, and I'll tell you something else I won't compromise on, and that's the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. At the last two debates, Donald Trump said when it comes to the Supreme Court, he said, Ted, you've got to be willing to compromise. You've got to be willing to negotiate and work with the Democrats, work with Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer. Let me tell the people of Louisiana this right now. I will not compromise away our religious liberties. I will not compromise away our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. And Donald Trump's promising to work with Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer to nominate Antonin Scalia's replacement means we will get a liberal judicial activist who will take away our religious liberty, and mark my words, who will take away the Second Amendment. Justice Scalia's most important opinion was Heller versus the District of Columbia, which upheld the individual right to keep and bear arms. I know that case well because I represented 31 states in Heller defending the Second Amendment, and we are one liberal justice away from the Supreme Court overruling Heller and taking away the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. If Donald Trump carries through on his promise to compromise with Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer, we will lose the Second Amendment, and I give you my word. As president, every justice I appoint will be a principled constitutionalist who will defend the law faithfully and ferociously protect the Bill of Rights for both your children and my children.
United States Senator Ted Cruz, and obviously a candidate for president. Sir, thank you so much for your time this morning, and thank you for squeezing us in. We appreciate it.
Bernie, thank you for having me, and I'm going to be in Louisiana this evening, 8:15 p.m., Mandeville, Louisiana, at the Castine Center. I'm going to be there with both Tony Perkins and Phil Robertson. So if you want to come and join Phil Robertson, Tony Perkins, and me, you can find out information about our event tonight. It is on our website, tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org, and everyone, please come out and vote tomorrow. If you want to stop Donald Trump, if you don't want to let him lose to Hillary Clinton, stand with us, unite with us. We welcome you on our team. If we stand together, we're going to win. We are the only candidate and the only campaign that has beaten Donald Trump, not once, not twice, but 5 times. And if we stand together, we're going to do so again tomorrow. And I give you my word that every promise I have made to you, I will follow through and do what I said. That's why the people of Texas gave me an overwhelming vote just 2 days ago because they recognize I've honored my word, I've honored my commitment, and as president, we will repeal Obamacare, we will pass a flat tax, we will abolish the IRS, we will stop amnesty, we will secure the borders, and that is going to cause millions of high-paying jobs. It's going to raise wages. It's going to make it a reality for working men and women again that the American dream is within their reach, and I ask for your support.
U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, sir, it has been a pleasure. Again, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, and God bless.
God bless, sir.